That's completely normal, because you have been fooled. These elections had nothing to do with the Palestinian question.
Clouet her at dette valget hadde ingenting å gjøre med det palestinske spørsmålet.
In fact, to think about the Palestinian question in terms of right and left is a profound misunderstanding of Israeli public.
Hvis man tenker på det palestinske spørsmålet som et spørsmål om venstre og høyre, så har man misforstått den israelske befolkningen eller opinionen.
This is the tragic mistake of Western media, and media in general, even in Israel some of it, but world media in general, that they think that there is a right wing, which is a nationalistic, some of it is even fascist, a side of the map, which is opposing any settlement with the Palestinians.
Og det jo en feil som ikke bare norsk media eller europeisk media, men også israelsk media, at de ser på israelsk politikk som de deler den opp i venstre høyreblokk, og høyreblokken nasjonalistisk mot en avtale med palestinere, til og med enkelte også mener fascistisk.
And a left bloc, or a left parties, that there are more humanistic and more oriented towards welfare and towards a settlement with the Palestinians.
Og venstreblokka da mer humanistisk, det for en avtale med palestinerne, og de for sosial velferd og så videre.
And that is exactly the point where the mistake. The Palestinian conflict in the eyes of the Israeli public has nothing at all to do with being left or right.
Men blant israelerne det palestinske spørsmålet har overhodet ikke noe å gjøre med venstre eller høyre.
Let's see what we can. I will get to what is the elections about. Let's see what we can learn from the elections process.
Jeg vil komme tilbake til dette, men først vil jeg se hva vi kan lære fra valgprosessen.
When we look at this pie, we see a lot of colors.
Så ser vi mange farger.
That is exactly the first thing we should learn about Israeli democracy.
Dette det første vi kan lære om det israelske demokratiet.
That Israel has democracy, liberalism and pluralism in its heart.
Israels hjerte, eller Israels kjerne pluralisme, mangfold og demokrati og liberalitet.
We see so many different parties. We have the Islamist, we have the communist, we have the right wing, we have the left wing, we have the orthodox, we have the religious, we have the secular.
Alt mulig.
If you remember all those.
Vi alt mulig.
Oh yeah, very diverse, yeah. And this kind of diversity has even bothered some Israelis that think we should change the system of elections because it's too many parties.
Og israelere selv også, mange synes jo dette litt for mye, og de mener at vi bør endre hele valgsystemet.
But I'm not sure Israelis will be very keen to do that because we love it that we have so many parties that represent the different sectors, the different interests, the different values of the society.
Men faktisk så tror jeg egentlig israelerne liker at det så mange forskjellige meninger og partier. Ja.
These elections were not about the conflict.
Dette valget var ikke om konflikten med palestinerne.
These elections, this diversity, is about questions of identity. It's about questions of values. It's about questions of how do we see Israel today and how do we want to see Israel tomorrow.
Dette valget går på spørsmål som identitet, verdier, hvordan ser vi Israel i dag, hvordan vil vi se Israel i morgen, hvordan ser vi Israel av i morgen.
It's how we want to run our budget.
Det hvordan vi vil ha budsjettet vårt.
It's how do we see the relations between seculars and religious.
Hvordan vi ser på forholdet mellom sekulære og religiøse.
It's how we see the relations between the Arabs in Israel and the Jews in Israel.
Det hvordan vi ser på forholdet mellom arabere og jøder i Israel.
It's about the values that were the heart of the debate in Israel, the values of equality, the values of sharing the burden.
Verdier som deler byrdene, og den andre tingen var...
This is the heart of the Israeli society.
Dette kjernen i det israelske samfunnet.
Sorry, you were not done?
It was... nobody remembered values.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just give you an example.
Equality, likeverd.
questions of equality. For example, the debate you will see in the next days in the coalition negotiations regarding should Orthodox Jews go to the army or go to work and continue to get money from government or not.
Så en av de største spørsmålene som kommer til å komme opp under koalisjonsdannelsen om de ultraortodokse vil tjenestegjøre i hæren eller ikke.
To emphasize the pluralism of Israel, it's probably the most pluralistic Knesset we've ever had.
Det antageligvis det mest mangfoldige Knesset, eller fargerike Knesset vi noen gang har hatt.
Let's start with the Arab minority in Israel.
Hvis vi begynner med den arabiske minoriteten.
We have Arab members of parliament in the Islamic movement, in the communist movement, in the nationalistic party, in the left-wing party of Meretz, in the right-wing party of Likud.
Vi har arabiske representanter i islamistpartiet, kommunistpartiet, det nasjonalistiske arabiske partiet, i venstrepartiet Meretz og i høyrepartiet Likud.
Just another example of what was predicted and what was reality.
Et annet eksempel på hva som ble forutsett og hva som faktisk skjedde.
The New York Times and The Economist predicted that the percentage of Arabs going to vote will be below 50%.
Både New Yorker og The Economist forutså at New York Times forutså at israelske arabere kommer til andel israelske arabere som stemte kommer til å være under 50% av velgerne.
Which could have had severe consequences about the legitimacy if less than half of the Arabs participate in the elections.
Hvis færre enn 50% av araberne hadde deltatt i valget, så kunne det vært et stort legitimitetsproblem.
But reality, percentage of Arabs voting went up from 52% to 58%.
Hele 58% av araberne gikk til stemmeurnene, og det var en økning fra 52% fra forrige valg.
In the city of Sakhnin alone,
i byen Sakhnin,
more than 80%, it's an Arab city, more than 80% voted.
I byen Sakhnin så var det mer enn 80% som stemte.
And I want to tell you, I was in Israel just before during the election, just before the elections day.
Jeg var i Israel, ikke jeg, men George var i Israel like før valget.
And I watched the campaigns.
Jeg så valgkampen.
Even the Arab campaigns did not talk about the conflict.
Til og med de arabiske partiene snakket ikke om konflikten med palestinerne.
They talked about problems of identity, being an Arab inside Israel.
De snakket om identitetsproblemer, hvordan det å være araber i Israel.
They talked about the connecting the Bedouins to the sewers and the electricity network in Israel.
De snakket om beduinene som trenger å knytte seg til vannledninger og avløpsnettet. Ja.
They talked about budgets allocation from the government to the Arab cities.
De snakket om fordeling over budsjettet.
But not about the conflict.
Men ikke om konflikten.
Another example. The number of women in the Knesset.
Antall kvinner i Knesset.
It's a record number of women in the Knesset. Today we will have 26 women in the Knesset. That's the highest number ever.
26 kvinner vil være representert i Knesset. Det det høyeste antall kvinner noen gang.
There are 3 parties in Israel headed by women.
3 partier i Israel har kvinnelige ledere.
In Yair Lapid's party, the new one, Yesh Atid, 8 out of 19 of his new members of Knesset are women. 42%.
I Yair Lapids nye parti, Yesh Atid, 8 av 19, det vil si 42%, nesten halvparten. Det ikke sånn at jeg trodde at alle israelere var mot fred med palestinere, og så viste det seg at alle var for fred med palestinerne.
This is a profound misunderstanding of the Israeli society.
Men de har misforstått det israelske samfunnet.
The Palestinian question is not a question of democracy or values or equality.
Det palestinske spørsmålet handler ikke om demokrati og verdier og politikk.
The democracy and the equality are in the heart of both Israeli left and Israeli right.
demokrati og likestilling, likeverd, en del av, eller like rettigheter både en del av venstresiden og høyresiden i israelsk politikk.
These elections were for the face and the future and the identity and the values of the Israeli society.
Dette valget var om det israelske samfunnets ansikt, verdiene og fremtiden.
The thing that unites all the parties from all the spectrum is the Palestinian question.
Hva som forener alle partiene det palestinske...
Okay, not unite, but in common for all the parties.
Okay, det som alle partiene felles at de har en mening om det palestinske spørsmålet.
Even if the right wing and the left wing have differences about the perceptions of occupation or not occupation, 67, not 67, yes Jerusalem, no Jerusalem. De har forskjellige meninger når det gjelder for eksempel Jerusalem, grensedragning, de palestinske flyktningene og så videre. The reason the conflict was not at all present in these elections
Grunnen til at konflikten overhodet ikke var til stede i den israelske valgkampen
is because they both believe that the question of what Israel should do right now is irrelevant. The question what Israel should do now is not relevant.
Okay. Spørsmålet saken at alle enige om at hva Israel bør gjøre nå irrelevant.
Because both sides believe that the resolution to this conflict should have two sides. And until there is another side, it's not relevant what we do.
Begge sidene, eller alle partene i det israelske samfunnet mener at det må være to parter, og derfor det irrelevant hva Israel gjør som en part. Så lenge ikke det noen annen.
We believe that this conflict is not an Israeli solo. And once we will have a partner, another side, that is coming forward, then we can start having the debate between the left and right. But right now it's irrelevant.
Det irrelevant nå, fordi at dette ikke et solospill i Israel. Men det samme vi får en partner på andre siden som man kan forhandle med, så kan debatten innad i Israel starte mellom høyre og venstre, hvor veien går videre for Israel.
The difference in the perception, the wrong perception that people around the world, a lot of governments have, is
den gale oppfatningen som mange har, går ut på
that the Palestinian question is a question between the classic left and the classic right, between the humanists, between those who are willing to give more and those who are more nationalistic and willing to give less.
De tror at det handler om venstresiden som vil gi mer til palestinerne og høyresiden som vil gi mindre.
And they don't understand that the conflict, as seen from the Israeli eyes, is not a question of left and right. It is a question of hope.
Spørsmålet ikke, men på den israelske siden så handler ikke spørsmålet om venstre- og høyresiden, det et spørsmål om håp.
The question we ask ourselves as Israelis is not what is our rights or their rights.
Spørsmålet vi stiller oss som israelere ikke hva som vår rett og deres rett.
The question we ask is, does it have hope? Does this particular settlement or this particular resolution or that particular option have any hope to succeed?
Men det vi spør oss selv ligger det et håp i dette? Ligger det et håp i dette, i denne avtalen, i denne dialogen, i disse forhandlingene?
And once hope will live in the hearts of Israelis, in the notion and in the feeling and in the knowing that the other side is willing to have a real and genuine peace, then we can move forward.
Men det samme israelerne føler at de har et håp om at den andre siden seriøse i å ha noe å gi og for å fremme freden, da kan det bli debatt.
I don't know how many of you are following the world debate about the Israeli-Palestinian question.
Jeg vet ikke hvor mange som følger debatten om den israelsk-palestinske konflikten.
But I'm sure you all feel, just a minute. What? No, I said that I don't know how many of you are following the Israeli-Palestinian question in the news. Oh, okay. I thought you want to ask me a question. Okay, sorry. All right. Then, if so many of you know, then you probably noticed a very interesting and very worrying trend.
Siden det så mange som følger med, så har det sikkert fått med dere en veldig bekymringsfull trend.
Until a few years ago, we used to talk about land for peace.
For noen år siden så pleide vi å snakke om land for fred.
The concept is Israel will give land and the Palestinians will give peace.
Israel vil gi land, og palestinerne vil gi fred.
Today, I don't know if you notice it, but look at the nuances. Today we are talking about giving land, and that's it.
Men I dag, hvis dere legger merke til nyansene, detaljene, I dag snakker vi bare om å gi land,
People are
ikke noe mer.
not talking about what the Palestinians should give back, which is peace, which is what Israel is longing for so many years.
Man snakker ikke om hva palestinerne skulle gi tilbake, nemlig fred, noe som israelerne
In the name of
lengter etter.
occupation and oppression and human rights, they are saying Israel should give back the land. And that's the resolution that they took at the UN. But nobody, if you, okay, maybe you should stop. Or if you read the speech of Abbas, the Palestinian president, in the UN, when his country was declared unilaterally by the General Assembly, the word peace is not mentioned even once.
Når den palestinske presidenten Abbas hadde en tale I FNs hovedkvarter, da han gikk til FN med dette forslaget om en palestinsk stat, når han holdt talen sin, så nevnte han ikke ordet fred en eneste gang.
So I will conclude and say,
Jeg vil konkludere.
These elections has shown, unlike all the predictions, the beautiful, diverse and democratic face or diversity of the Israeli society.
Dette valget har vist det utrolig mangfoldet som vi har I det israelske samfunnet.
And you've seen examples how many Arab members in different parties, religious members, a record number of religious members, record number of female members, a female Ethiopian, a secular in the Jewish Conservative Party.
Vi har sett masse eksempler på dette, sekulære, religiøse, kvinner, menn, svarte, hvite, ja, you name it.
And if anyone asks you, is Israel more left or right, then you should tell them that we have moved forward from those questions.
Så hvis det noen som spør deg, nå Israel høyre eller venstre, så skal jeg si at Israel har kommet seg litt videre fra akkurat den modellen.
The question of the Palestinian-Israeli relations, as I said, is not a question of left and right. It's a question of hope and having a partner to talk to.
Spørsmålet ikke høyre og venstre, spørsmålet saken håp, og om man føler at man har en partner å snakke med.
The reason the results are so different, the reason all those commentators and journalists were wrong, the reason that the conflict was not even an issue in these elections is because we don't see that the other side is providing us hope in return to our hope.
Så det palestinske spørsmålet, forhandlinger, var ikke det hele tatt det var ikke et tema I valget, nettopp fordi at man føler at den andre siden ikke hadde noe å gi, ikke hadde noe håp å gi.
The Israeli society is moving forward, is discussing the main issues in the heart of the society, the values and the identity, and we are hoping and praying for the day we will find hope on the other side.
Så I mellomtiden det man snakker om I det israelske samfunnet, verdier, hvor vi går, hvordan vi utvikler samfunnet, og håper da at den andre siden også kan komme opp med håp for en løsning på konflikten.
So before I open the floor to questions, I want to say thank you very much. You've been listening and attentive and a wonderful audience.
Ja, kjære venner, det noen som har noen spørsmål? Kommentarer bør du ikke komme med, for de aller fleste her kjenner det meste, men spørsmål viktig. Vær så god, Ruth.
I would like to ask you, are you sometimes invited to hold speeches for the students here in Norway?
I was invited once by students in the University of Oslo, but which was very important and it meant a lot for me. Unfortunately, the only people who came to that place were students who support Israel. I wanted to confront and to debate with the other side. But if any one of you can arrange an invitation to me regarding that issue, I know we're trying, and if you have any doors open for you, to invite us to speak to the people of the Middle East or the international relations or political science students, then I'll be more than happy and more than keen to come and talk.
Ok, hun spurte da om han hadde fått invitasjoner til å snakke på universiteter, og han har vært snakket på universitetet en gang. Han håpet at det ville kommet mange flere. De som kom var stort sett pro-israelske, og han håpet å få en debatt. Og så sender han ballen videre til dere og sier at hvis det noen av dere som har mulighet til å hjelpe han til å holde foredrag på universitet, så han takknemlig for det.
Da det deg, Solveig. Holsholm, så.
Det var et spørsmål om det nye government i Israel vil være litt mer villige til å lade de religiøse tjene i hæren, og ikke, eller eventuelt om de kunne gøre noget socialt positivt.
Så jeg skulle oversette den til, nå skulle jeg oversette. Okay, I'll translate to George, and I'll check if I got the question right. The new government, how do you think it will look upon the conscription of the ultra-Orthodox in the army?
Well, we don't know, because we still don't know which parties are going to be part of the of the new coalition. The negotiations are going on now. From what we hear, Yesh Lapid, the new party of Yair Lapid, has taken this issue as a flag issue. This is their main topic, and if Netanyahu wants them in the coalition, then I assume that some decisions in this matter will be taken.
Ja, det han sa, det fikk med meg, var jo at man vet ikke hva slags holdning den nye koalisjonsregjeringen har til, for man vet ikke hvem som kommer til å være med i koalisjonen. Hvis Yair Lapids parti Yesh Lapid kommer til koalisjonen, de har jo gått til valg på nettopp dette, at de vil at de ultraortodokse skal innrulleres i forsvaret, og da det jo godt mulig at vi kommer til å se en bevegelse i dette spørsmålet.
Ja, jeg vil bare spørre om bosettingene. For europeisk opinion så det veldig mye spørsmål og usikkerhet omkring det da. Så jeg vil bare spørre, det mange bosettinger som ikke har noen militærstrategisk betydning? Altså, vi ser jo umiddelbart at de bosettingene som ligger nær grensa, for eksempel Østå, at de har en militærstrategisk betydning. Det har Arbeiderpartiet sagt. Men så det de andre da, som vanskelig med hjemme. Hva med dem?
Okay, I'll translate and you will correct me. So it was a question about the settlements, because the whole settlement issue is kind of a big and disputed issue all over the world. And the question was, are there settlements without military importance And because there are a lot of settlements with military importance close to borders, and according to him, and the question is, what will actually happen with the other ones?
The settlements are not there for military concerns. No?
Settlements ikke der av militære årsaker, eller strategiske årsaker.
The settlements, maybe there are settlements that are seen today that they have some military importance because they are a buffer zone or they are in a strategic point, but they are not built. People who live in those settlements are not soldiers. There are people living their normal life.
Settlementene har jo ikke akkurat militære, det er ikke militære formål. De som bor i settlements vanlige mennesker.
We don't see the what is called the 67 border, the settlements, as occupied territory. This is disputed territory. We are not saying it's Israeli, but we're saying it's in dispute. Let's talk.
De områdene hvor det settlement, som gjerne blir kalt for okkuperte områder, feil. Det ikke okkuperte områder, det omstridte eller disputed territories. Det ikke heller israelske områder, men det altså omstridte.
And if to open just brackets to the historic context, occupied from who?
For hvem de okkupert fra?
Before 1967, the Jordanians were at the West Bank and Egypt was in Gaza Strip.
Før 1967-krigen så var det jo Jordan som hadde Vestbredden, og Egypt hadde Gaza-stripa.
These countries don't want the territory back today.
Disse landene vil ikke ha områdene tilbake I dag.
And according to international law, there is no a sovereign body that existed there that can claim a ownership over it.
Og etter internasjonale folkeretten så det ingen autoritet som kan kreve de områdene.
But it doesn't mean that there is a Palestinian people who lives in that territory that deserves rights, including the rights of sovereignty.
Men det betyr ikke at det et palestinsk folk som lever der, og som også har rettigheter, inkludert rettigheter til selvbestemmelse.
But the lines are not holy. My city Jaffa is not any less Palestinian than Ramallah, just like Hebron is not any less Jewish than Tel Aviv.
Men grensene jo ikke akkurat hellige. Jaffa, byen hvor han kommer fra, jo ikke mindre palestinsk enn Ramallah, akkurat som Hebron ikke mindre jødisk enn Tel Aviv.
Israel has no will to control another people.
Israel har ikke noe ønske om å kontrollere et annet folk.
Therefore, we are looking for a solution not from the perspective of what is the border and where should we put the line, but from the question of, we have a problem. You are living under the Israeli direct or indirect rule. Just for your knowledge, 97% of the Palestinians in the West Bank don't live under Palestinian rule, PLO rule.
97% av palestinere på Vestbredden lever faktisk under palestinsk styre. Men vår holdning jo at det ikke spørsmål om grenselinjer, men saken at vi har et problem, og vi trenger å løse det.
So we're saying to the Palestinians, let's sit down and find a solution.
Så vi sier til palestinere, la oss sette oss ned sammen og finne en løsning.
If there is what is called a settlement, like Ariel,
vi har en bosetning som for eksempel Ariel.
There are tens of thousands of people, over 100,000 I think, who live in Ariel. So it was agreed. The border was never a problem in the negotiations. We keep Ariel, and in return we give you another land somewhere else. Land swaps, it's called.
For eksempel vi har Ariel, hvor det bor over 100,000, og vi har aldri diskutert grenser. Har aldri vært et problem. Vi var enige om at hvis Israel får Ariel, så får palestinerne områder et annet sted fra Israel.
The future, the fate of the settlements, whether military or not military, will be decided in the negotiations. And maybe, just like I'm part of the Arab minority in Israel, they could stay there and be part of a Jewish minority in Palestine. What's wrong with that?
Hele spørsmålet om bosetninger noe som vil bli forhandlet og diskutert i endelige fredssamtaler som skal lede frem til en endelig avtale, og det heller ikke noe veien for, akkurat som George en del av den palestinske minoriteten i Israel, den arabiske minoriteten i Israel, at det også kan være en jødisk minoritet i en palestinsk stat.
This is why we have negotiations. We don't find the solution before sitting down. First we sit down, then we talk, and then we find a solution.
Først setter vi oss ned, så snakker vi, og så finner vi en løsning.
And as I said, this question of settlement solution Palestinians is not even relevant. It's very relevant all over the world. But in Israel, nobody's bothered by it. Not because it's not important, but because there is no hope on the other side. It doesn't matter what we do, because we don't have a partner, and we are not going to repeat the mistake of unilateralism.
Ja, men,
and as I said, we don't. It's not bothering people, not because it's not important.
Ja, det ikke, folk ikke opptatt av det fordi det ikke viktig, men nettopp fordi et av problemene som han også sa tidligere, at man har ikke noe håp på den andre siden, så det spiller ingen rolle hva Israel gjør, så lenge ikke man har noen partner på den andre siden.
Var det besvart? Edvard? Ja?
David, med klokka. 10:08.
My name is Miss Christiansen Grovera. Thank you very much for a very informative election debate. I just want to ask you, as far as I see, there is a question of territorial occupation. And after 1967, when you released the part that you have occupied, so it's to and from all the time. Are there never any question about if you even give every centimeter back of the territorial occupation you have taken? The Arabs will still remain and still say that you have occupied their country and they don't forgive you. They will never ever forgive you. Why don't you ever talk about the cultural differences? You are so different. May you ever live together? It's a wrong marriage.
Well, whether we like it or not, we're stuck together. And I'm an Arab, I come from that culture, and I live with the Jews pretty well.
Vel, vi faktisk vi sammen, og vi har ikke noe annet valg. Og jeg en araber, og jeg bor veldig bra sammen med jødene.
But I think the point you're raising is very relevant, and that's exactly from another perspective what I was saying. If the Jewish public had faith in, okay, maybe you can.
Ja, men det et veldig viktig poeng som du tar opp her.
If the Jewish public had faith that once we give away the lands, whether unilaterally or through negotiations, if that this will bring peace, tomorrow it would be done.
Hvis den israelske befolkningen hadde tro på, hadde et håp om at de hadde en partner, en seriøs partner, så ville de ha gått med på en avtale og levert tilbake land vips i morgen.
Withdrawing or giving or whatever you want to call it, the land, and getting nothing but a very vague of maybe we get peace, maybe we get coexistence, maybe we will not get rockets on our heads, that's a risk we can't take.
Men vi kan ikke ta risken med et kanskje når vi går med på å levere tilbake, gi tilbake områder. Vi kan ikke et kanskje fred, kanskje at ikke vi får raketter tilbake, kanskje vi kan leve sammen. Det holder ikke.
And unfortunately our experience with unilateral withdrawals is not good. Gaza is the evidence.
Vi har ganske dårlige erfaringer med ensidige tilbaketrekninger. Gaza, for eksempel.
We left Gaza in 2005.
Vi forlot Gaza i 2005.
And what we got, and this was the opportunity for the Palestinians to prove that once they are given the hand, once they are given the power, they can make a flourishing, a democratic, economically vibrant country.
Palestinerne kunne her vise at når vi trakk oss tilbake, så kunne vi få et sterkt demokrati, en blomstrende økonomi, og så videre.
But that did not happen, as we know.
Men
What happened is inside Gaza, the Hamas threw the Fatah activists, the PLO activists, from the balconies, killing 700 of them.
Det som skjedde var at Hamas-folk kuppet Gaza, de kastet Fatah-folk ut av balkongene i 7. etasje.
And they have turned Gaza into a terrorist base for a missile pad launching towards Israel.
Og de har gjort Gaza om til en terroristbase for å skyte raketter mot israelsk territorium.
So the next time we give land, and we are willing to do that for peace, we are not going to give that and take the risk that something like that would also happen 5 minutes from Tel Aviv and 2 seconds from Jerusalem.
Så neste gang vi gir bort land, som vi vil gjøre, men da må vi ha forsikringer om at vi ikke får raketter mot israelske områder.
And that's exactly why this topic of what Israel should do was not relevant in the elections. Because unless there is a partner, unless there's someone, there is a way to guarantee peace, there's a way to guarantee that these lands are not given away to become another base of Israel hatred and terrorism, then there's no reason to move forward. We need a partner.
Vi trenger en partner, vi trenger garantier før vi gir tilbake områder.
Ja, det slik at jeg hadde bare et spørsmål i forbindelse med det du sa om at valget hovedsakelig dreide seg om indre verdier i Israel. Men jeg har fått inntrykk av at den trusselen fra Iran, hvor kommer den i bildet når det gjelder det valget som tatt? Det dreier seg vel ikke bare om indre verdier, men også hvordan Israel skal aksjonere mot Iran.
I don't know who you heard that Iran was a main topic. Of course it's a topic, but it's not the main topic. In fact,
Iran var et tema, men ikke et hovedtema.
Iran should be a topic.
Iran burde vært et tema.
Unfortunately, personally, I think, unfortunately, it was not a topic. The only party that spoke about Iran was the Likud, headed by Netanyahu.
Det eneste partiet som snakket om Iran var Likud-partiet til Netanyahu. Jeg oversetter. Spørsmålet var om forholdet mellom Israel og USA.
Israel was, is, and will continue to be Israel's main ally. And Israel will continue to be the US main ally.
Ja, USA og Israel fortsetter å være hverandres viktigste alliansepartnere.
It's not secret that there is tensions and there are disagreements on several topics.
Det ikke en hemmelighet at det spenninger eller uenigheter på mange områder mellom landene.
But the bond between the US and Israel has nothing to do with the person aspect. It is a bond of interests, a bond of values. These elections exactly show, when you look around Israel, who is the US natural only ally in the region.
Båndet mellom Israel og USA går utover rent personlige bånd. Hvis man ser i Midtøsten i dag, så det jo Israel som reflekterer på en måte verdiene som man setter høyt i USA.
I work with Hildegun at the embassy.
ja, vi jobber sammen på ambassaden.
And we don't always agree.
Vi ikke alltid enige.
But it doesn't mean we're not good friends.
Men det betyr ikke at vi ikke gode venner for det om.
And the same goes for countries.
Og det samme gjelder ulike land.
Snakk norsk, så oversetter du.
Thank you. My name is Kulstad.
Hovedstad, og vi fortsetter å være Israels hovedstad.
There is a very big debate in the Israeli politics whether any compromise should be made on Jerusalem, and some think there should.
Det en veldig stor debatt innad i Israel om man kan gjøre kompromisser om Jerusalem, og det mange som mener at man bør.
But again, this question is not relevant today.
Men det spørsmålet egentlig ikke relevant i dag.
If you look at the proposals made before, whether it is the proposal of Barak in 1999,
hvis vi ser på forslagene som har kommet før, enten det har vært forslaget til Barak i 1999, Ehud Barak i 1999,
the Clinton map from 2000,
hva kaller man det, veikartet til Clinton i 2005,
and Olmert's proposal to Abbas in 2006,
og Olmerts forslag til Abbas i 2006,
in all of them, the Palestinians were proposed more than they can ever hope for today, including part of Jerusalem.
I alle disse forslagene ble palestinerne tilbudt mer enn de kan drømme om å få i dag, inkludert deler av Jerusalem.
Some of the people who were in the negotiations have revealed the documents.
Noen av de som var til stede ved forhandlingen har lekket eller avslørt hva som dokumentene inneholdt.
Condoleezza Rice, who was the Secretary of State in 2006, she even said that she just could not believe what the Palestinians were offered, and she could not believe they did not say yes.
Den amerikanske utenriksministeren i 2005, Condoleezza Rice, sa at hun kunne ikke tro sine egne øyne og ører at det tilbudet ble avslått av palestinerne.
You can find that quote in her book, in her own autobiography.
Dere kan finne det i hennes egen biografi.
So, the whole question of Jerusalem is a theoretical one. We first need to have a partner that is facing peace. That person should be ready to sit down and negotiate. And in negotiations, our Prime Minister said, we will open everything.
Men som sagt, spørsmålet ikke relevant før vi får en partner som seriøs, en partner som vil virkelig ha fred. Og da har statsministeren sagt at alle spørsmål skal være oppe på bordet til diskusjon.
Today, Abbas and the people at the Palestinian Authority are setting preconditions, which means they want the result to be agreed even before the negotiations.
I dag så den palestinske posisjonen at de vil ha preconditions forhåndsgarantier, eller de krever ting på forhånd før de går inn i en forhandlingssituasjon.
Our Prime Minister said that Jerusalem is and will always be the united capital of Israel, but it's not a precondition.
Vår statsminister sa at Jerusalem vil for alltid være vår udelte hovedstad, men det ikke en forutsetning
We don't have preconditions.
For forhandlinger. For den israelske siden har ikke krav i forkant av forhandlinger.
If Abbas wants peace, come, sit down. You want to talk about Jerusalem? We'll talk about Jerusalem. You want to talk about Tel Aviv? We'll talk about Tel Aviv. But just come and sit.
Så vi sier til Abbas, kom og sett deg ned sammen med oss, og alle vi kan snakke om alle spørsmål. Hvis vi snakker om Jerusalem, kan vi det. Hvis vi snakker om Tel Aviv, kan vi det også.
Skjeller i alle tall og alt mulig mellom Jerusalem og Vestbredden. Allerede FN i 47, deres Vestbredde hadde Jerusalem var et helt eget område som ikke hadde noe med Vestbredden å gjøre. Så når det nå blir veldig sånn bråk rundt omkring alle steder, fra Norge og alle veiene, om at oi, 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 nå det nye bosetninger, på Vestbredden, så viser det seg at de er jo i Øst-Jerusalem. Ja, men det er ikke Vestbredden. Og at ikke betydningen av det bekymrer Israel, det skjønner ikke jeg. Okay. I don't understand why you are not making a great difference between Jerusalem and the West Bank, which already was made in 1947 in the United Nations. Jerusalem is not a part of the West Bank. So when it's a big trouble all around the world that now you have made some new settlements or new buildings coming up in the West Bank, no, it's proven it's in East Jerusalem. I think it's important for you to have the world to make that difference. And I don't understand why you don't do it.
I agree with you. Perhaps I should have. Historically speaking, the West Bank and Jerusalem is a completely different case. But unfortunately, people today don't make that difference, and they should be corrected. The West Bank, according to the partition plan of the UN, should have been a part of a Palestinian state. That's the offer that the Palestinians rejected. That's how the War of Independence of Israel started. And Jerusalem should have been a neutral international area. But that proposal was rejected. So for us, Jerusalem is not an international area because we took it from the Jordanians. The Jordanians don't want it. And if we have annexed it to Israel, we are willing to give citizenship to all the residents in East Jerusalem. Some of them already have it if they want it. And the West Bank, it's not about territory. The reason I did not talk about Jerusalem and the West Bank, because territories are not relevant. Once we sit down with the Palestinians, we will agree not according to lines in the past, but we'll agree according to needs of the future. And that is how we want to negotiate. We don't see the whole area as Jerusalem is not disputed. Jerusalem is Israeli territory, but the West Bank is a disputed territory. And we are willing to negotiate. And we are willing to talk about everything. And if they want to talk about Jerusalem, we will talk about Jerusalem. But it doesn't mean we will compromise about Jerusalem. They will say what they think. We will tell them what we think.